right now we're talking about why video games should not be played. The counterpoint is being given by James. James, please continue as to why you think it is okay for people to play video games.
Okay, so my theory on this, excuse me, my thesis on this is because um, only people who have their stuff together, because video games are a total waste of time, right? Everyone knows that. The corporations profit off of it. However, it's considered a leisurely e-sport, right? Emphasis on leisure, meaning that only those who are responsible enough to handle their free leisurely time and have done what they needed to do as far as occupation and bill paying is concerned should to a certain degree should have that right to do that after the responsibilities are taken care of. For example, paying their bills, keeping a clean house, if they have a family, keeping their kids and wife in order. And if they so choose to do that on their free time to blow off some steam because there's nothing else to do as far as housework is concerned, or their day off on their job, then they should have that right to do that. This should not be applied to those who are sitting around, who are not in school, who are not employed, or just simply a flat out bum, because then that's extremely detrimental at that point. That's my take on it.
Those are some great counterpoints, and could you give us an example of could you give us an example of someone who's able to juggle this activity and uh, yeah, just can
Okay,
you give us somebody like an example of someone who can juggle this activity successfully? Because
okay,
one
so
of the things that I feel like you failed to mention was health. A
mm,
lot of things, a lot of people dismiss health as important, mental health, physical health. And just because you have children and a wife and you put them in order doesn't mean you're giving them the attention that they deserve, and it doesn't mean that you're building on your family or your community. You also didn't mention anything about community, building your community. You didn't mention anything about spirituality, religion. So you talked about maintaining monetary problems and surface level containment of the family, but you're missing the other points too, mainly health and spirituality and religion and community building. I do think gaming will affect you in one of those forms. You can't have it all. I do believe gaming will distract you, and if it's not the money, if it's not the health, it's going to be something else. Maybe I'm not thinking about it right now, but it definitely builds bad habits. That's on the other thing. What happens is, in my opinion, when you game, it progresses just like any other habit or hobby or ritual. It keeps becoming more profound. So let's say you play Candy Crush once. You're playing Candy Crush, it's all fine and dandy, but then it starts progressing into now you're playing WoW. Now you're playing WoW for 2 hours. Now you're playing WoW for 9 hours. It's too immersive. And on paper, it looks like a very innocent hobby, but realistically, it takes over your mind, it takes over your soul, it takes over your body, and there's no way to circumnavigate the problem of gaming but to not game itself, in my opinion. And I can tell you, all of my friends, including myself, when we play games, there is a sense of suffering that occurs. It may not be then, it may not be later, but it's always eventual, and it could be from any things. It can be health, mental health. It could be monetary health. Like it always does something negative, whether you see it or not. Games are very beautiful. They can be artistic, but that doesn't dismiss their destructive ability.
okay,
Okay, so his first talking point was essentially it sounds like he's saying that the privileged class are the only ones who should be allowed to play video games because they are the ones only able to really benefit from gaming without the consequence of suffering. But why only the privileged class? And who exactly is the privileged class? And are they really free of consequence? I would say so. First, I would say that the privileged class is essentially the people he was talking about, where in which they're the employed, the upper echelon of people in the economic ladder, um, and they were, I would say, they're privileged, but not necessarily privileged because they work to get where they are, whether through means of working hard, study, or generational wealth. Are they really free of consequence? I would say no, and the reason I say no is because though I did mention health and spirituality and community building, one thing that I noticed when we play video games, we're subconsciously saying that we are satisfied with our position, or that we're waiting for something. Oftentimes when we play video games, we're waiting, and that's why we do it, right? So we're waiting for travel, waiting to transition into a new career, waiting to retire. And so when you play video games excessively, regardless of everything being in order, family, friends, money, even uh, your career from the outside, really what I found is I played games to I played games to essentially pass time. And I wasn't really interested in when I was playing games. I wasn't really interested in career progression. I was more interested in passing the time for where in which I needed to accomplish to get the job done. So, one negative point can be said about the privileged who play games is that they're flatlining their career, they're satisfied with their career, and they don't seek to better their career. So that is one of the consequences of playing video games. You're subconsciously saying, I'm content with the mediocrity that I sit at the moment. This is in reference to the privileged class he was talking about.
So, like anything in life, I feel with any substance, whether electronic or pharmaceutical or anything that's it's not a controlled substance, but it can form habits like a controlled substance. Just like medicine is designed here to help us, but if you abuse it, it can become an addictive substance that was not its intended purpose. Same, I feel the same thing with video games. It's designed to be a leisurely activity, but if handled the wrong way, it becomes downright destructive and degenerate in and of itself because it's not being handled properly. As an example, you were designed as a human being to enjoy said whatever. In this case, we're talking about video games. Is that you were basically designed to get in, get out, play the game, and that's that. If you lack self control or any type of discipline in said situation, it's going to spiral out of control, and then right there in and of itself becomes an addiction. So something that was designed to be innocent and harmless is now taking over your brain and making you deficient in areas you should be proficient in. I've had this debate with certain counselors when I was in a program for a year straight. What qualifies as an addiction, and what are the signs of it? And this topic had came up, and I said an addiction. I said to myself, and also to the counselors, what's an addiction is something that uh, takes over your life and makes you forego all sense of reasoning, and it literally puppeteers you, and it's very hard to fight against. So again, I'll go back to the original statement in the beginning of this conversation. If it's done, if it is done in moderation, right? Meaning that okay, I I worked, okay, my house is clean and my responsibilities are taken care of. My significant other's not complaining, and I'm not gorging, meaning playing for hours on end like a fiend. I think it's reasonable to play that, but again, you have to be in that position, because I feel it's a working man's sport, not someone who's uh, being lazy, not working, not even in school, doing nothing with their life, and then playing like 12 hours a day. That's extremely degenerate behavior. But again, if you have no self control or you don't enjoy something like that in moderation, it's just as bad as crack or cocaine, if not worse. However, I think that you should divvy up your time depending on your living situation, to strengthen your brain and don't get brain rot from playing games or watching movies all day by dividing it amongst reading, studying, working out, proper diet, and just overall putting everything in this category in its time and not letting things boil over. That's my thought on that. Because I feel video games in and of itself, it's not destructive. It's the person who can make it destructive by losing self control and not prioritizing their responsibilities. So that's one of my thoughts on that.
That's an interesting point. So, in summary, could you conclude exactly what you're saying?
So in summary, all right, I conclude that if done right in moderation and also in your current responsibility, that leisurely time should be it should be enjoyed and handled with care. Because just like a controlled substance, again, like I mentioned earlier, medicines are designed to help you, but if abused wrongly or taken too much, case in point, pain medication, you can become addicted to it, even though that's not its designed purpose. Video games were designed to entertain you, not how you say become your sole reason in life in terms of interaction. And you have those who have lost all self-control and gorge on that particular e-sport all day long. And in some cases, I kept mentioning people working, even people who have occupations. It takes it over, you know. And I feel so. I feel certain people should have a certain. I know it's gonna sound weird, but they should have a certain mindset to even be able to play said game because they were designed to hook you in. And the reason for that, not to get all out of bounds with it, is because it's profitable for the corporates, the corporate elite to make money off said game. Nobody wants to play something that's boring, and boring stuff doesn't make money. So it's designed like that. It's our job as the consumer to recognize, hey, wait a minute, this game is too addictive, it's too fun. Maybe I should just ease up off this a little bit, you know. But that's ultra rare. No one's really thinking like that. All right, we think we're human beings, we're creatures of habit. All right, and you could go cold turkey and be extreme and say, okay, well, I'm not playing games ever again. You could do that, but then you're gonna have to supplement that boredom big time when it comes in. And I said, like I said, if things are done in moderation, I believe it's achievable. But it's you have to believe in that, and you have to, as they say, walk it like you talk it. You can sit here and say, okay, I'm gonna do stuff in moderation. No, you have to say, you know what, I'm gonna touch this for like an hour or two, and then that's it. And I strongly believe if you're disciplined enough, it could happen. But again, I strongly recommend you have to be already productive in society to be doing that. You know, and I believe it's possible because I use myself as an example. This last job that I had, which was ultra hard and obnoxious, I would come home after a hard day's work, play like an hour or two, but because I'm so tired, I can't gorge in the game. Not that I would, but I have to say, you know what? I get up early in the morning. I got to limit my gameplay. Let me just play for like an hour or two with my friends online and then call it a day. And I was still handling my responsibilities. So it's definitely possible. But some people, they don't have that self-control. They don't have that discipline. Things fly off the rails. They're one game leads to another, like was mentioned earlier. The next thing you know, they're a junkie. It is what it is. You know? So that's my summary with that. Moderation, basically.
I think there is no such thing in moderation with gaming. I think gaming, video gaming specifically, is a self-destructive habit. And no matter how you do it, or when you do it, or why you do it, you always end up hurting yourself and other people. Okay? Doesn't matter if you're doing it to vent or decompress, you're still sacrificing that time for in that example, right? You're sacrificing that time instead of working on your body and your mind. You're using your mind and your body to hypnotize yourself, to play a game, to enter a state of fake relaxation, sliced with agitation, in lieu of getting a dopamine hit. Okay? I don't think you can actually relax when you play games. That's my argument. That's another argument. Okay? Other argument is you shouldn't really be sitting down in excess, doing nothing, which is essentially what video gaming is. You should be using that time to work on your body or your mind. These things are ignored when you play games. So really I honestly think you can decompress with other things, like going outside, reading a book, cooking, talking with your children, talking with your spouse, watching a movie. Just be bored, period. All these things, in my opinion, are a lot more constructive and better for your life. When I quit gaming, I started making more money. When I quit gaming, I stopped being upset. When I quit gaming, I started reading, writing, and understanding, reflecting. This didn't happen while I was gaming because my mind couldn't do it, because my mind was agitated and it's stuck in the agitated state. There is no constructive there is no constructive critical thinking that happens when you play games. There is none. It's all compulsory. And what I mean by that is when you are led by your compulsions, it's essentially like you're doing things you already know, and the more compulsory it is, the less you're thinking. When you want to learn something, when you're learning, it hurts to learn. So there is no learning in video gaming. There's nothing. It's just you're using compulsion. And that's my opinion on it. I really think as for my life, every time I stop gaming, my life gets better. Every time I game, my life gets worse. Um, so I don't believe in gaming at all. I don't believe in video gaming at all. And that's my stance on it.
Mm.
So, here our fellow philosopher has said that moderation is the key, and just like any tool or medication, it has its usage and it can be abused. Now, I say in theory that, in theory, moderation is the key. At least I think that's what he's trying to say. And that if you're not moderate with your consumption of games, it can lead to a very bad addiction that ruins or corrupts yourself and corrupts the hobby. Essentially, it's all about self control, from what I understand he's trying to say. I can tell you, I am one of those people who have absolutely no self control when it comes to gaming, and I'll admit that. And that's why I think there is no such thing as moderation when it comes to gaming. Again, I don't want to talk about something I've already spoke of, but it always escalates. That's my opinion on it. There's an escalation concerned with games.
What do you do, especially during odd hours of, you know, for entertainment? Like say like 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're bored out of your mind with this very limited things to do, especially in the late evening hours. What can you possibly do to take them? I mean, because you're not ready to go to sleep, obviously. So what do you do?
What I understand you're saying is that you should live a life where you're constantly entertained. What kind of life is a life that you are constantly entertained? The the philosopher, the ancient Greeks, even they mentioned something like that. That's not a life you that you can live. That's not a life that is sustainable and logical. Like you cannot constantly be entertained. That is not possible. And that's what you're asking or wanting as a contrary point to not playing games. But nonetheless, I'll say this, that I do engage in activity, and sometimes I don't engage in anything. Sometimes I absorb just being bored, letting my mind rest. But I do also engage, again, in reading, in writing, in learning, in spending time with my family, talking with my friends, something I'm doing right now. I'm literally talking with you because I'm not playing games. And that's what I do. Okay, I do other things. Sometimes it's completely spontaneous things, like going to the movies or going to the museum. But all the time, I'm enjoying myself and living my life. Is it as fun as gaming? No, realistically, it's not, because gaming is an addiction. But the Aristotle also says that just because something is pleasurable doesn't mean it's a good thing. Men oftentimes they think that because something causes pain, it is an evil thing, and because something causes pleasure, it is a good thing. This is not true. This is not true. This leads you to a life of hedonism and self-destruction.
Um, I partially agree with that because let me tell you why. Most of what you said, I believe it's 100% true. However, um, I believe in being able to relax on your own terms. And something again, as you said, just because it's pleasurable doesn't have to make it bad. It's how it's being enjoyed and how long is it being enjoyed and what exactly is being enjoyed. Um, I'm not going to sit here and say they're inherently bad because they're not. But guess what? Um, Here's the thing, right? Um, I was going to use cigarettes as an example, but that's a bad example. Very addictive, also very legal. Um, Here's the thing, right? All this was 100% possible, but everything is based on the individual. If you're mentally not strong enough and you're mentally weak, then okay, I personally feel you should not be touching that stuff because it's going to absolutely corrupt your little soul and make you waste time and be lethargic and everything that you mentioned on that list. But what if you are doing what you're supposed to do as far as your body is concerned, your occupation is concerned, or even your education? Don't you have a right to entertain yourself the way you want to entertain yourself?
Who are
Should
you?
everybody should everybody feel the way that you feel, or I mean, how do we judge this or regulate this? You know,
I I I love your point. I'm guessing that you're saying that. Well, what are you trying to say? What's the first thing?
I
What are you trying to say?
okay. I'm trying to say that someone's feeling towards something, or even their downfall, or their negative experiences, should not impact the masses. You know, and just like with cigarettes, just like with anything that's powerful that can corrupt, should come with a warning label. It's just that simple. It shouldn't be like, up. It fucking destroyed my life. It made me my teeth fall out and made me sell my ass on the street. Don't do it, everybody. No, I don't think it should have that type of an approach. It should have a responsible approach. Just like anything in this world that comes with warning labels or the ability to be addictive and destructive. Or otherwise, just outright ban video games altogether. You know, but we can't do that because that's profit. That's corporate profiteering at that point. You know, that's what I'm saying. And
I like what you're saying. Can you sum it up though? Can you sum it up?
okay, so in summary, right? Just like addictive substances, because video games is it's addictive, but it's not a substance, but it is something. It should be handled with care and moderation. And if someone is not able to handle that and has sworn that shit off, that should not be the case for the mass majority. This is why I mentioned in summary, it should be for people who are responsible enough to handle it, namely adults. Kids really can't. So kids are definitely not going to be on this list because there's too much. It's too overpowering for them. Their mind is not developed. So for adults, let me be very specific. For adults, if they are in a position of um, of um, of decency and responsibility in their life, who who cares if they blow off steam? If it's not impacting their home, if it's not impacting their occupation, if it's not impacting their relationship or marriage, or the time spent with their kids, who the hell cares? But if it is a problem, then it should be immediately rectified. Then everything that you're saying should be applied and implemented on that. But what if it's not doing that? I know some very productive people who get up, go to work, have kids, talk to me all the time, do their little video gaming thing, and then life goes on. No complaints there. And then there are some people who just flat out are fucking losers and just do that shit all fucking day. And are fucking fat, heating fucking slobs. So it's possible on both sides of the spectrum that it can be crazy. But I just showed you a good. I just said a good example and a bad example. But it shouldn't be one size fits all because this is how I feel about it. That's my take on it.
What's
In
your
summary,
experience with video games?
um, at one point in life, I will say this: it was very distracting, super fucking distracting. And I said to myself, you know what? Let me just cut down on this and moderate my time. But let me focus on getting back to work, and which eventually I did. And I said to myself, you know what? If I'm going to play these games or I'm going to indulge myself in this, I don't want to be angry. Okay, well, how do I do that? Stay away from the things that make me angry. Well, what is that? Typically competitive games like fighting. Okay, well, don't do that. Well, what brings a smile to your face? Games that are typically single player that give you an enriching experience. Okay, well, just don't indulge too much because you have work. And I was able to come home from work, play the game, go to bed at a decent time, eat decently, get up, wash, rinse, repeat, with no problem. It was never late to work. I didn't get in trouble because I was coming in sleepy because I was playing my game all day. No, none of that stuff. And there were times where I was working so hard, I was so tired I couldn't even touch my game. My game was just collecting dust, you know, just sitting there because I would come home, I would turn the game on, the screen would just sit there, and I would fall asleep in my bed because I was so tired. So it is possible, but I'll say this in summary: if you can't handle something like that, stay away from it. Bottom line, doesn't matter who you are. Yeah, you okay? No, no worries, man. Yeah, in summary, if you cannot handle that type of stuff and it's becoming addictive and it's distracting, it's ruining your life, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
What would you
You know?
say? What would you say? What would you say constitutes to ruining your life when it comes to video gaming?
Easy, very easy. I'm glad you asked that. Very easy. And this is what I told my counselor when I was in that program for you. What constitute that is forsaking your responsibilities, neglecting your body, neglecting your occupation if you have one, and if you have a family and live with one, being very withdrawn from them, all for the sake of the video game. Then you have a problem. That's what constitutes that. And if that is the case, and that if that is the case, then you have no business picking up a controller whatsoever. You have a problem. But if those negative conditions are not met, then and you consistently do what you have to do, and you can actually pick up a controller in moderation, and you're able to do both, spend time with your friends and family, and work and be responsible, then you should be able to do that. But if you are that person that can't, you have no business touching that. So that's my summary right there.
That's some great talking points. I wanted to circle back to what you said about game choice, and I want to say something that you said you try to stay away from angry games, and I 100% understand
Yes,
what you're
yes,
saying.
100%.
If I'm not mistaken, you're talking about
Fighting games.
like what's the word? Fighting games, shooting
Yes.
games,
Yep, yep,
games that
yep.
essentially have you versing
Enrage,
or
enrage. Yes, competitive.
competitive.
Game.
There's another word, but anyway. So my point on that is, I think all games lead to anger.
So I'll give you a quick recap so we can get back to the conversation. I said as long as you're doing what you got to do in life, as far as your occupation is concerned, your family is concerned, and it's not turning you into an addict like a controlled substance, you're not forsaking responsibilities, then at the end of the day, you should be able to blow off steam. And then I gave certain examples like, my friends who do work, when they come home, they want to decompress. And if since they're doing what they're supposed to do, why not? They should have that right to do that. And if some people are becoming a basement dwelling troll playing 12 hours a day, wasting their fucking life, then that's a problem. That's my take on it. So
My take is, under no circumstances are video games good for the person. I think video games are bad, no matter what video games you play, under what circumstances. The video games are not good, and you shouldn't play video games. That's my argument. and the re-
okay. Time out. Does this include cell phone games as well?
Yes,
So
every type of game, any kind of video game. Those are all
uh,
bad. You cannot play
does
video games. They're
does
not good for you.
is this including but not limited to board games like Monopoly and stuff like that?
No, those games are held in reality. They're not
Uh,
as they're not at all encompassing and brainwashing and habit forming and self-destructive as video games. And I say this because I feel like video games, they elicit anger under any pretense, whether the game is intended for verses or not. And when you play checkers, you're not necessarily thinking about checkers when you're, let's say, having lunch or going to work or a couple of days after you play the game. I can say
okay.
that when you play video games, there is a fanaticism associated with it that you end up thinking about it even when you're not playing the game. And that's just one instance and one example why I think video games are not good, because they totally envelop the mind and in an unhealthy way.
Okay.
I don't want to continue on because I feel like it's not really my time to talk. But real simply, those are just some examples. I just don't think video gaming is a healthy habit, no matter how you slice it. No matter how you slice it. And funny enough, I've been engaging in these conversations with coworkers. You know, I shouldn't really be
Okay.
doing this, but
Oh
I've
shit.
noticed a trend, and this trend is that these men, given these simple words, I say, I quit video gaming. When I say this to the layman, he turns into a tempest of like virulent rage. It's almost like I'm taking the pacifier out of his mouth. That's what I think. Every time this happens, I have this conversation, even a slight hint of it.
Well, hold
I
on, excuse me.
see.
I don't mean to cut you off. Did you say you mentioned this to one of your coworkers and they started going like rage mode?
Yes.
Is that what you saying?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And not in an argumentative way, just in a way where I said, yeah. For instance, we were having a general conversation. The gentleman said, social media is not really good for you. And I said, I agree. And that's exactly why I quit video game. And that very sentence set him off. And that, if that is not a sign of how addictive video games are, I don't know what is. When you are
Okay.
set in rage just by the mere mention of it, of quitting it, why is that? Why do gamers get mad at that? It's because it's a really bad addiction. It's a super hard addiction.
Because
And I can
because
say another reason why gaming is bad, because it's an addiction, right? And when you have addictions, you neglect other things. And the reason you can tell it's an addiction is you can't go more than one day without playing a video game. If you can't go more than one day without playing a video game, it is an addiction. It is.
okay. So I'm going to explain certain things that are elusive to you for whatever reason, right? In terms of enraging other people with that conversation. Here's the thing, right? Imagine, if you will, if someone had, I think I'm qualified to speak on this because I was in the drug program for a whole year straight, right? And you don't get much crazier than that. And these conversations, I've literally had these conversations with certified counselors and junkies alike, right? So I'm gonna be real brief with this. Okay, so here's the thing. Imagine you going through some type of an experience, right? A real bad experience with said substance or said situation, right? Just because you experienced that type of hell and you were able to bounce back and recover, does that does not mean that's going to be the case for others? So in other words, if you had a bad experience with eating a tub of ice cream and you shit yourself, now you're telling everyone don't eat the ice cream because you're gonna shit yourself. No, that's just your body. That's just you. But at the same time, I totally understand what you're saying because you're saying to said people who actually play the game, in this case your coworkers, okay, this is basically poison. It's gonna rot your brain. But so in other words, to them it's harmless. And now you're saying something. Now you're saying something that's they consider harmless. It's fucking vile and decrepit and yada yada yada. So
Hold
they're like,
on.
wait a minute.
That's not what I said. I didn't attach any emotions to my statement. I simply
No, no,
said,
no. I am. I'm saying that.
right.
I'm being.
But it
I'm
has
saying.
to be understood that when I had said these things, it wasn't on a negative, necessarily negative output or utterance. I just said, yeah, that's why I quit video gaming. That's what
Okay.
elicited the anger. Just that.
Yeah, and this is why I was specific when I was talking about gaming in general, because it's not just simply picking up a controller. I'm getting dressed. It's not just simply picking up a controller. Certain things can get you to that point, because we covered wasting time and brain rot to enragement, right? And to a certain degree, it could be all encompassing. But this is why I said, and I had this conversation with Fred the other day. I don't play fighting games unless it's invitation only. Like, say if you had asked me to play something, or Kevin did, or whatever. Other than that, I don't touch that type of stuff because I know how fighting games make me feel, right? And I had a blast with David because it's rare that I actually play with David. I didn't feel like I wanted to punch the TV screen or say something stupid to David. No, I had fun. He mauled me a couple of times, but we had fun, and it's been a long time since I did that. But when I do play games, I play games that don't enrage me. This is why I cut fight. As an example, I cut fighting games out of that video game diet because I know how it makes me feel. I said the same thing to Dwayne as an example. I said, Dwayne, listen, you get upset all the time when you play these games. You should stop playing these games, bro. If you're gonna play, I can't tell you for him to quit cold turkey like you did because that's insane. I said, listen, just play things that put a smile on your face if you're going to do that. I can't tell him to stop because most people, let's be honest, most people can't do what you did, Eric, and they won't. They can't.
So, what's interesting is I sort of agree with what you're saying, where you, if you have the, let's say, the discipline to play games that you only enjoy, you
Yeah, I
shouldn't be
do.
getting angry and you shouldn't be in a state of addiction
I don't. I
because a
don't.
game that you enjoy is a game that ends. What
Yes.
happens with gamers when they play games that end?
Well, typically that involves games that have all those stay on all day, like MMORPGs and stuff like that. That becomes borderline addictive. Okay, so I that part I understand.
Wait,
Um,
what happens? What happens when gamers play a game that ends? It was it was kind of a trick question. So what I was looking for was they look for other games to play. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. So even if we go on the notion where it isn't an addiction, it isn't an addiction, right? And the game can be stopped, and the game has an end. What inevitably happens is the gamer looks for another game to run away with. Okay, that's what I think. And when you enter these virtual spaces, everything goes away. Everything. Your mind, your focus, and you develop an ego in the game, which I like to call the avatar ego. It's a fake ego, a virtual ego based on what you do in the game, who you play with, and what's your favorite music, what's your favorite clothing, and you tie that to your own ego as a sort of merit of your own wealth and reality. But it doesn't make any sense because there shouldn't be a correspondence between how good you play and how good of a person you are. It's supposed to be a hobby and something you have for fun. If you take these,
exactly.
if you take
Exactly.
right, and in my opinion, and I'm not even sure what I'm saying at this moment, but when you take things too seriously, um, you sort of ruin the experience. And that's just me speaking. And if you really want to get good, like especially when it comes to versus games, you gotta actually study. And to me, that doesn't sound like fun. It doesn't sound like fun. Like it just doesn't make any sense. All this for
Well,
what? All
I,
this
I,
to all this to prove that you are the man. That your ego is the shit. Your avatar ego is the shit. You know the way. It's just crazy. It's just philosophical nonsense. It's just because your brain melts when you play these games. And
yeah,
that's my opinion on it. I don't even know necessarily what I'm saying, but that's why I just stay away from it. And I noticed that and no offense, I want to talk to you guys about this, but last time we fought, that's one of the main reasons why I stepped away from that. What I've realized is all three of us had put our egos on the line, and we took turns. We took turns bullying each other and gaining gratification from these acts. These acts are so sadistic and stupid. Why were we placing so much effort and energy in this kind of meritocracy? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, and we were hurting each other. It doesn't make any sense. That's why I stopped gaming because I lose, I am therefore not worthy. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
Okay, okay. So how about this? You're talking about in a competitive sense, all right? And typically, there can't be two winners. So that means someone by default, right? This reminds me of the Core A gaming videos we watch because they spoke on this, right? There's going to be a level of salt, right? Now, that can be heightened by negative reinforcement, a la teasing and teabagging and posturing and all that stuff. Um, However, I'm gonna challenge some of this, right? Right now I'm at Kevin's house. Typically, when I come over here, besides just watching something on TV, we do play stuff, right? But it's not really competitive. It's cooperative. What I suggest, right, and I do miss doing this with you, which is why it pisses me the fuck off, but that's another conversation for another time. I miss playing cooperative stuff where people take turns and get enjoyment out of whatever the hell is on that screen. Everything does not necessarily have to be a competitive situation. You don't have to sharpen your claws when you go see your friends.
I've been saying
You stop it. I've heard you say it many times.
Yeah,
However,
I've been saying that to y'all for years. Let's play something.
Yes.
We don't have to kill each other. I've been saying that for years.
Yes, that is true. And case in point, we as an example, me and Kevin, we did start, but we didn't get back into it. The Resident Evil 4 remake in VR, right? Stuff like that is pretty fun to do. We played it. I didn't feel any resentment. I wasn't upset or whatever. It was actually a good experience compared to the last one because you don't feel as dizzy as before. You don't feel like vomiting and shit. I think they fixed that. But stuff like that is fun to do. Or an example, if I would have got that Final Fantasy thing up on my computer working, me and you would have had fun playing this shit, Eric. Would have. But
But the MMORPGs is what he is. Go back to Eric says that's too
addictive. Well, yeah. I mean,
one is too addictive, and two, it takes too much to
of your time. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes. You have to be overly committed to playing an MMORPG game. It's too time consuming.
Yeah, Final Fantasy. But the thing, again, it comes back to the original point when we was talking. If you are taking care of your responsibilities and you're working and you're doing what you're supposed to do, whatever that may be, as far as occupation or with your family, spend time with them, to me personally, who the fuck cares? I'll give you a big example. Fred comes home from that job that's whipping his ass, right? From corrections. What does he do? Either play Dead by Daylight with us, which is high camaraderie, or in his own personal case, jumps on John. He jumps right on John, does his thing, plays for a little bit, and then gets up 4 o'clock in the morning and starts all over. He can go back to work. No harm, no foul. He has a home, he has kids in his home, and he has a woman in his home. What the fuck is the problem? That's what I'm trying to say. And then I said to Eric, I said, you know what? If you are doing and on top of your responsibilities, case in point, how Fred is, what's the problem? It only becomes a problem if you become a degenerate. That's when it becomes an addiction. You're not taking care of your body. You're not working. You're not in school. You're wasting your life away. You're being a fucking loser. But what about the average working day man? Doesn't he have a right to blow off steam if he wants to do that? And most wives get their husbands PlayStations for Christmas and stuff like that. I don't understand. I only understand when it becomes a problem.
When you play games, no matter under any circumstances you're neglecting something, it is not a good hobby. It is not good for you. And even if the game is non-competitive, because you play so many competitive games, your mindset will unavoidably make the experience a competitive mindset. It will always be competitive, no matter what. Even if it's a multiplayer game, you're going to be competing over who has better gear, who does more damage, who's faster, who presses the button faster. And, these things sound really trivial at first, but you have to understand that you build these habits in your mind, a habit of competition. And so when you exit the realm of virtual reality, you become hyper competitive. And I see it all the time. It's not an innocent hobby. And if you want to really think about it, you had said there's a mean, right? There's a mean, there's an extreme, and there's a really bad and really good. What is the mean of people who use heroin? What's the
Oh,
average? What's the average health of a person who uses heroin? Not very good. Regardless of their social standing, their economic fluency, it doesn't really matter. You can say that most likely they're not doing very good health wise because they're using heroin. It's the same thing. Just because you see someone doing something very good or something very bad doesn't dismiss the mean. And the mean is when you do drugs, you suffer. It's the same thing with gaming. It's the same thing. Okay?
okay. Well, I'll tell you what. let's ask a third party. Kevin, do you consider yourself a gamer? Do you play
This
games
is being
regularly?
recorded. You are warned.
I know. I'm not gonna say nothing facetious.
Easy.
Do you play, he's right here. Do you play games consistently?
you have to just. I'm not trying to be an ass.
Meaning during the course of a week, you play every so often, correct?
You have to. I don't know what the parameters are. I'm not trying to be a dick.
Okay, so the parameters are because
like what's often? What's
often more than twice. I would say more than once or twice a week.
I play more than once or twice a week.
Yeah, exactly, right. Do you consider that being destructive in your life right now? Is it destructive for you?
Well, okay, for me, it's totally different. For me, I'm a retired fucking person who just stays in the house, and so for me, I don't think so.
Do you feel you've earned the right to do that? To engage in that PlayStation life or whatever?
Yeah, but I don't think that's the point. I don't think that's the point that he's making. But yeah, I do. I mean, look, it is. So, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I think it could be good. It could be bad. At best case scenario, it's something to blow off steam. At worst case scenario, it's an addictive hobby, right? So I think those are the two things to be used for. Even though more often than not, it's used as it's abused and it's a horrible vice. More so than when it's just to blow off steam. But I'll say this: everybody has their vices. People that drinks is not necessarily good. There's a whole bunch of shit everybody do that's not good. It's really just up to the person on how they on how they can handle it. If they can't handle it, then in that case it's bad. If they do it in a leisurely way and it doesn't disrupt their life, then it's a good thing. It's up to the person how to utilize it.
James, how has video games affected your life?
I think it was. I think back in our heydays. Let's go back roughly mid 2000s, 15 years ago. I think it was very negatively impacting me as far as being ultra competitive with my friends, even 20 years ago. Whereas now it has very little effect on my life because I don't prioritize it like I used to. So I think when you start prioritizing your priorities and video games become smaller and smaller, it becomes like almost non-existent. So to answer that question, how has it affected me? As of now, within the past, I would say 10 years, very, very minuscule at best. Very minuscule. So much so that the times that I was working, I was barely even playing my games. I had limited hours, and I would see my buddies online and like, listen, I got to go to work. It was fun gaming, and then I would go. I would just it was in such moderation. It was like nothing. And there were days that I wouldn't even play because I'm too tired. I would come home, I would cut my PlayStation on, but then I would just lay back on my bed and fall asleep, and then get up and cut it off because I got to go to work in the morning. So there you go.
So, I'm going to talk about how video games have negatively affected me in the past. And so I vividly remember spending thousands and thousands of dollars on Final Fantasy XI. So that's
Uh-oh.
one of the things I remember that's really negatively affected my life. I remember dedicating my time and efforts and my health to a game that gave me nothing in the end. That's one thing I remember. I remember going to the arcade and being harassed by people gambling on me to play Marvel vs. Capcom versus people in the arcade. Okay, negative emotions like that. I remember being abused. I remember people hitting me because I would beat them up in a game, in a versus game. Now, I don't necessarily think I was the good guy in this, in these ordeals, but these are just some negative associations I have with video gaming. Um, I remember ignoring my family. I remember ignoring my friends. I remember not enjoying Hawaii because of video games. And
Mm.
I remember all these like terrible things, like for instance, you would take me to go fight your friends, and really the experience wasn't necessarily very pleasant to me. I remember that,
Yeah, that is true.
and I don't understand why you did that.
Okay, so at that time, I would say skill level wise, I think you were definitely exceeding me in that area, and you were my weapon of choice. If that is the case, right?
So you weaponized me. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, I did.
Interesting,
Absolutely.
because I did speak about that in another video about how people weaponize video games to hurt people. So you essentially weaponized me in the video game to hurt other people, correct?
That is 100% correct.
This is why another reason why I think video games are bad, because video games are weaponized against people, whether we're
Yeah.
conscious of it or not.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think about. I don't know if I should go into how it's negatively affecting me now or how it positively affected me before.
Okay.
We'll go with positively affected me before, right?
Yep.
So, I think video games do have a great ability to instill camaraderie. I do think that.
We put a whole bunch in there right now because there's nothing to drink. I'm sorry about that. Carry on, Eric. Huh?
I do think they do have a good ability to contribute to camaraderie, and you can hide virtues like dedication under video gaming, but other than that, I don't really see anything really positive other than that. Even like thinking about now.
Uh-huh.
What are some positive things that you got from gaming from the past?
Oh, that's easy. Camaraderie and friendship. 100%. I had a lot of memories that were actually built and started, and friendship started over that. A lot of friends who I've met both in and out of the game room remember me because of the certain things that we were doing. Um, as far as positive notes and feelings, that's pretty much it right there. Um, you know, with anything in life, you got to take the good with the bad. And which one you taking this off? What comes with video gaming can be negative feedback. But like I said, again, this is only in the competitive arena. When you oh my God, it's hot as hell here. When you step outside the competitive arena, I tend to notice that these negative feelings like kind of disappear. But it's not me making excuses. It's an observation. That's all it is. Yeah. How do you move this back? Oh, I see it. Yeah. So I feel like I said, if you're playing things that are not competitive, cooperative, some of my most greatest feelings in video games come from cooperative games, and everything negative that I've ever experienced in video games come from competitive games. There's no surprise there. So what I did was I said, you know what? I'm not going to compete anymore unless it's an invitation, and if it's an invitation, then that means it's a friend who's not going to try to make me want to pop a blood vessel. Example, David, when I was playing him competitive, or some of my buddies online. Other than that, I don't play fighting games. I tell that to everyone. I do not do that. I play things that put a smile on my face and I have fun doing. And I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to do this again. That's the feeling I want to get. But I make sure again that I'm prioritizing my responsibilities first, whatever that may be. And if I can, which is a big if I can squeeze in having a little fun, then yeah, sure, I'll blow off a little steam. I talk to my friends online on my mic and get good laughs, all the time. I just make sure. Hold on, you still there, right?
I'm listening and it's recording. Yes.
I just make sure that does not get in the way of my day to day life responsibilities, whatever that may be. I even when I went last time I went to Thailand, I brought my PlayStation over, or my PC over, and on my downtime I was just mostly watching YouTube because there's no TV to watch. But I was goofing off over there too. Okay, I'm about to do this because it's extremely hot here. Turn the AC on. You did? Because it's hard to tell. Okay, now it's on. I don't have nothing coming out of here.
All right, that was a nice chat. I guess you're very busy now, and I'll go ahead and conclude the recording and conversation. Thanks for chatting with me.
No, I'm not busy at all. I'm in a car. That's all. I can hear you loud and clear. I think it's a very I like this conversation, but but again, as a side note, I would never ask someone to do something that they're uncomfortable with. Do I miss playing certain games with you? Of course I do. You know, especially action adventure games. I definitely do. As an example, I was playing Mega Man the other day. Okay, now that game in and of itself can be kind of infuriating, kind of sort of, but it doesn't make me build tension towards my fellow man. Well, can you this is like,
I don't know, man. It doesn't matter. Video games is not or shouldn't be a big part of life one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a niche hobby.
It's just I think as long as everybody freaking has fun, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
I mean, and I think in the past we've definitely used video games as too big of a crutch
or weapon.
Whatever purposes we use it for.
Weaponized stupidity.
It was definitely I think too big of a part of our friendship. The three of us.
It's what connected us.
No,
I'm sorry. It's what brought us together.
Not. Maybe that's how I met Eric, but that's definitely not how I met you. Huh? Definitely wasn't involved in our video game. We actually met each other in a playground. Playground. Yeah. But once we was friends, I think we just gained too much and stopped. Didn't have a normal friendship. It was just too heavily dependent on video games.
Yeah, I would say it brought some elements of toxicity because let's be honest, most of the stuff that we did play was fighting games. It was, egos will clash. No one wants to be second best and all the nonsense. So yeah, but again, that's negative reinforcement. What about no one has spoken about positive reinforcement when you play certain things involving camaraderie and co-op stuff. No one mentions that.
I mean, Eric did. Eric said it was positive. I mean, like it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you do it, it's fine. If you don't do it, probably even better. But it's
to me personally, even when I go back to work, which I will, I'll probably still be doing it. But it doesn't, as long as it does not impact me or my job, I don't care. Because to me, I see it no different than a sock or something on the floor. It's like it's nothing. It's nothing. It doesn't brain rot me. I don't devote my time to it. I don't spend money on games. I don't do none of that stuff.
If I may, so you said something that caught my ear, and it was that you see it as something not significant, almost like a sock on the floor. But what I understood it as is I don't see how it is a problem for me, and I think that people can't necessarily self-reflect. Right? There's things that people cannot see. Like sometimes your friends, they see something that you don't see yourself. personally speaking, I see video games affect everyone in a negative way. That's just my opinion, but that's what I am saying. Okay?
Okay.
Even when it's a game where it's non competitive, quote unquote, it still ends up being competitive. It's still. Now, is it enjoyable? It probably is a lot more enjoyable than a versus game, right? It probably is not as bad, but let's be real. Video gamers, they don't stop just at non competitive games. Everything always turns into a competition. It's just an escalation of force that eventually happens with everything we do. What I'm saying is that escalation of competitiveness always inevitably leaks into reality and turns things sour and turns things toxic. Okay? It's unavoidable. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that video games, no matter what argument you spin on it, it's not a healthy habit, it's not a healthy hobby, and it's just better to stay away from them. That's that's succinctly. I don't think video games are good. People should stop playing video games. And I understand why people play them. I'm not an idiot, I'm not a monster. I understand that it's therapeutic. It relieves stress, but it always gets abused. I see it all the time. Always gets abused. I see people spending so much money on their game. I see my kids. They stole a credit card. I don't know if I told you guys this. They stole my mom's credit card to get Roblox. Okay?
Oh
I hear
shit.
this story. I hear this story all the time. All the time. And then, that is a competitive game. It's a multiplayer game. It's a kids game, and it's just always with these issues. Let's think for instance. Why do you think China? Why do you think China puts a limitation on gameplay? Why do you think that? They are subjectively the most cerebral country in the entire world. These people are often lauded as the smartest and most intellectual types of people, right? Why do you think they put a time limit on their games? Because it's not healthy. You can't control yourself. It's not a good habit. That's what.
Okay. Guess that's one way of looking at it. All right. Learn something new every day.
The real question is, can friendships, right? In our instance, can they be sustained without video games? Can it be sustained?
Sure. I mean, I could visit you anytime and not do that. That doesn't bother me. Would I like to be having fun goofing around with that? Of course. But yeah, I absolutely could. I'm doing it now. Do I have a choice? I mean, it is what it is.
I'll say this. I've been saying for years we should have gotten away. We should have gotten away from the video games.
Mr. DVD, calm down.
No. I was us three in particular. I'm not saying give up video games in general. I'm saying like I don't like a long time ago. I think that video game shit, was crippling our friendship, and I thought that we should have
Fighting games in particular.
Well, fighting games in particular, but I was saying video games in general that we should step away from it because I felt it was kind of crippling our friendship. I said that a long time ago. But can friendship? Okay, I think most friendships are not based around video games. So to answer the question, could our friendship last on video games? I say absolutely, because I don't think real friendships are forged based on video games. I just think video games is something that happens because it's something that we have in common, or it's a mutual like. But if it's a real friendship, then video games is not the basis of the friendship.
I agree with that. I think we've pretty much exhausted our minds saying everything we had to say. Is there anything anyone else has to say about it before I cut it off?
Let me see. In closing, I'll say this. Like I said, I really don't think we need video games. I don't think we need video games. I think there's more than enough stuff in this world to occupy our minds and our times, and it doesn't have to be based on video games. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, my final thoughts is that I'm always gonna do what I do, no matter where I'm at, because no matter where you go, there you are. And like I said, as long as nothing's crippling me or my friendships or my relationships, and I'm not impacting anything that I consider valuable in my life, I'm gonna do what I do, you know. And I do what I do with great how you say concern. Make sure that I'm not hurting myself or others, and that's it. That's it, man. That's how I feel about that.
Okay, so to conclude this discussion, I wanted to bring in a guest speaker. I wanted to bring in a younger gamer, and here's his opinions on video games. So I'm going to ask you, Ismail, what do you think about video games, and what are some positive things about video games and some negative things about video games that you have experienced and done and think about? Okay, here's the floor.
So basically, I have done some positive things and negative things while playing video games. For example, video games for me, it makes me calm down whenever I play, and it kind of sends me into a it's like a world that I can do almost whatever I want in certain ways. But sometimes it can be negative because sometimes it can make you phase out of reality, and once you get back to reality, it can sometimes mess with your brain. For example, it can rot your brain. For example, it can make you seem dumber. It could also help, or it could also be negative to your health, mental health, and physical health. Why? Because it can, sometimes you want to be on the game too much, to a point where you don't want to get outside and actually be physical in certain actions. And some positive things is, for me, it makes me relieve and stress. So certain times whenever I'm mad, I usually go on some games. And it can also be negative because when someone messes around while I'm gaming, it can make me even more mad in certain ways. But mainly, that's all that happens. But in my opinion, games are both good and bad in certain ways. Why? Because it can affect your real life, but it can also help you in a little bit of ways.